Sahananavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. May the Lord protect us both. May He nourish us both. May He make us strong. May we be brilliant in our studies. May we never have any disputes. Om, peace, peace, peace. My name is Vimal Velani. I will present today's VDAT session. Before we get started, here is some basic information. The objective of this session is to prepare you for VDAT Level 2 exam. As we do that, we will all learn and refresh few basic Vedic concepts. We will specifically focus on why, what, which and when of our practices and beliefs. The material presented here is mostly in line with VDAT 2 curriculum booklet. The content presented here is appropriate for age group 10 through 14. The presentation will be in English with essential use of Sanskrit terminology. At the end of the session, there will be a short quiz to validate your understanding. Among all the chapters in VDAT 2 curriculum, this one is the easiest one to read and has a very practical message. Yet it requires proper clarity to understand the tangible subject matter. So I thought it would be a good idea to start the presentation with a short game. Name of the game is What Would You Pick? I hope you enjoy playing the game along with me. The rules of the games are very simple. You will be asked to pick one of the two options offered to you. The answer will be revealed after 10 seconds. Objective is to pick the right choice based on the situation, which will be displayed along with the answer. Even if you pick the correct answer, try to rationalize your pick based on the situation provided. Sharpen your minds and get ready. What would you pick if someone is giving away water filled with water, of course a drinkable water, or a $100 bill? You can only pick one of these two items. The situation is when you are stuck in desert. How did you do? Obviously the right pick is water bottle in this case. Hope now you fully understand how the game is played. Let us try another one. What would you pick? Lot of snow or hot sunshine? Answer will be revealed in 10 seconds. If you are on a ski vacation, this was tricky. Congratulations if you got it right. Now that you know the game is playing tricks on you, let us see how you do on the third pick. This one may be more relevant to you. Would you opt to study or go party with friends? Answer in 10 seconds. The situation is if tomorrow you had a major test. If you were little thoughtful and aware of the trick, by now you have started to pick the right choice. Here comes the last one. What would you pick? To make peace or to take on a fight? Situation and answer coming in 10 seconds. Would you fight or make peace if you were Arjuna on the battlefield of Mahabharata with Yogiraj Krishna as your charioteer? Congratulations and thanks for participating along with me. This exercise brings about few important aspects of the topic virtuous values. Here is a quick summary before we proceed with the session. The first question highlights, in order to understand value of any object, it is important to understand what is the worth of having that object and at the same time, what is the loss of not having that object. Second question emphasizes on effort you put in to acquire the value should bring you pleasure and not sorrow. The third question indicates it is important to understand what is your responsibility under a given situation. And last, it is clear peace or war is never black and white question. Evaluating the consequences and thereafter choosing the path that causes least harm based on dharma is always the right option. The purpose of this exercise was to point out, though the subject matter is easy, without proper understanding, you cannot derive the value just by breezing through the pages. With that said, let me begin with today's topic, virtuous values. The Sanskrit terminology for virtuous values is sadgun. As part of this topic, we will cover introduction to topic of value, definition and why values are important for us, who must acquire values and why, types of values and means of acquiring values. Finally, we will summarize this topic before we begin to discuss two important values which all of us should acquire, and those are Swadharma, meaning self-responsibility, and Ahimsa, meaning non-violence. Before we dive into the actual subject matter, let us understand how we can categorize or group tangible and non-tangible, seen and unseen objects of this universe. One way to do that is to separate them into objects that are conscious and those that are not conscious. From science perspective, we can say those that are living and those that are not living. Further, we can divide this into 4 different groups. Let us understand the characteristics of each of this group. Out of all this, God is very unique. He alone is omniscient, omnipotent and omnipresent. He is the creator, maintainer and sustainer of this entire universe. He also is a reservoir of infinite divine qualities and has the ability to inspire the soul to acquire those qualities. Like humans and animals, he does not have a mind, body and senses, nor does he need them to act. Even non-living objects are very unique. They do not breathe, do not grow, are composed of energy and matter, does not have self-intelligence, nor do they have mind, body or senses. Third comes the plant kingdom. They need air, water and light to grow. They have a body made of cells, but do not have all 5 senses. They have a very limited instinct-based intelligence only. Animals and humans are put in one category here, since they are very much alike in nature. They need air, water and light to grow. As body made of cells, they have 5 senses and mind, possesses instinctive and or self-intelligence, and they are capable of making decisions. The objective of this exercise was to determine which of these objects are capable of self-transforming. God, by the virtue of his nature, is full and complete. There is nothing that he needs. He is embodiment of infinite knowledge, strength and potential. Hence, he has no need to transform. On the other hand, non-living objects cannot transform on their own. They need to be acted upon by a conscious entity to transform, meaning they cannot bring about self-transformation. Plants also are limited by their potential to perform any kind of action. They grow and die, following laws of nature. That leaves animals and humans. Both have organs of action and knowledge with a mind that allows them to self-transform. However, even amongst them, there are huge differences in regards to transformation. So let us look at the difference between humans and animals. We will compare them across different attributes such as consciousness, self-awareness, free will, capability of mind, code of ethics, capability to transform, level of intelligence, and ability to grasp knowledge, and finally, level of experience. Obviously, both animals and humans are conscious, meaning they both are living. Not only that, they need air, water, light, and food to grow. From here on, you will notice they both are vastly different. Animals are not self-aware. For example, when they look at themselves in a mirror, they cannot establish their self-identity. While when a human being looks at the mirror, he or she knows that they are looking at their own image. Human beings can observe their behavior and understand their characteristics. Humans can willfully choose how and when to act. Animals can act as well, but their actions are driven by instincts. Animals are born with certain qualities. They live and die with those, with very limited ability to change them. For example, you cannot teach a snake to be kind and loving, nor can it learn on its own. Since humans can observe and willfully act, they can choose to adopt new qualities. Thus, a human being can willfully change qualities of his mind, while an animal is not able to bring about any substantial change in its behavior. Code of ethics do not apply to those who do not have a free will. Hence, code of ethics applies only to human beings and not animals. Animals cannot acquire new qualities. Your pet cannot learn how to be kind to you, nor can it do your homework. Animals can be trained to perform limited number of physical tasks, such as you can teach your dog to jump, roll and crawl, but you can never teach him to read a book or recite a mantra. Thus, compared to human beings, ability of animals to grasp knowledge is almost negligible. It is not possible for an animal to improve the quality of their life and the degree of happiness they experience. For example, type of food that was eaten by a lion that lived 100 years ago, the same type of food is eaten by the lion that lives today. While if we look at humans, the cuisine has changed even in last 25 years. Humans' craving and desire for type of food changes from one generation to another, and it is likewise for every other desire. Among all these differences, self-awareness, free will, and capability of the mind work in conjunction with each other to allow the human being to transform the qualities of their mind. Animals have not been given the knowledge of being self-aware of themselves. A dog does not know that it is a dog, but a human is born with the opportunity of being aware of himself. On the other hand, man is given an opportunity to choose and function accordingly. A man can be aware of the positive and negative tendencies in his mind. He has the free will to transform the qualities that are in his mind. Man thereby can improve the quality of his life and the degree of happiness he experiences. A human being can transform the qualities of his mind. In order to do that, he requires mental discipline. Mental discipline brings about steadfastness and purity of mind. When your mind is pure and steady, it results into many benefits such as welfare for yourself and others, experience of superior happiness, achievement of discriminating knowledge, satisfaction, ultimate freedom from suffering. Concentration and virtuous values are the two essential mental disciplines required to achieve a steadfast and a pure mind. When mind completes a task without any distraction or interruptions, it is known as concentration. We cannot perform the task well when our mind is distracted. You can improve the ability of a mind to concentrate through practice of meditation. It is not enough for the mind to just achieve concentration power. There is no rule that a mind with power of concentration will also be pure. Therefore, equal amount of effort is required to purify our mind. A mind which has good values is a pure mind. On the other hand, a mind which has negative qualities is considered to be an impure mind or a sick mind. Purification of mind is achieved in two ways: by acquiring good qualities and removing negative qualities. A mind is pure and steady when negative qualities are removed and good qualities are acquired, and which has ability to concentrate. To sum up, the human mind possesses qualities that have no parallel in the animal world. Now that we clearly understand values can only be acquired by human beings, let us understand few more things about values, such as what are the different types of values, what are the general benefits of acquiring values, what are the fundamental means by which we can acquire values. First, type of values. We all know that there are two types of values: good values and bad values. Good values are also known as virtuous deeds or punya karma in Sanskrit, while bad values are known as sinful deeds or evil deeds or pap karma in Sanskrit. Good values are those qualities of mind which result in welfare of yourself as well as welfare of others. There are numerous good values such as self-control, non-violence, generosity, purity, humility, contentment. We define sinful deeds as those qualities of mind which result in harm to yourself and or others. Just like there are numerous good values, in the same way there are many bad values such as lust, anger, greed, illusion, delusion, pride, envy, jealousy, and many more. It is human nature to pursue something only when they see benefit in it. At a very high level, the three general benefits of acquiring any good values are: it brings you happiness and contentment. Your mind will be peaceful and tranquil. Second, when you acquire good values, your good behavior helps maintain and sustain law and order in the society. It results in smooth functioning of the society. And lastly, the most important one, acquiring good values is the only way to free yourself from all sufferings and fulfilling the true purpose of human life. Now that you understand that there is benefits in acquiring good values, so the question becomes, what are the means of acquiring these good values? There are three fundamental things you need when you want to acquire any good value. Those are basic knowledge about the value, strong desire to acquire that value, and finally, make a persistent effort to acquire that value. Knowledge of what are good values and what are bad values is very essential to allow us to make a choice between the two. Also, before we commit to acquire any values, we need to understand the nature and benefit of the value we desire to acquire. Simply knowledge is never sufficient to acquire any value. Since desire in our mind propels us to act, we have to cultivate strong desire in our mind to acquire good values. We have to be persistent and resilient to acquire the value we desire. Once we have good understanding of the value and our mind is set to acquire that value, we need to make appropriate effort to acquire those values. We should learn correct techniques and methods that are necessary to acquire the value we seek to acquire. And for that, we need to be ready to seek guidance and advice. Thus, to achieve your goal, you will need all three: knowledge, strong desire, and persistent effort. In order to acquire knowledge about the value, to cultivate strong desire in them, and undertake appropriate effort, you will need an open mind, be a good listener, and understand value of values. We are now ready to look into the methods of acquiring virtuous values, and each of these methods will lead us to better understand the value of values. The first one is significance of virtuous values. It is very important for us to have a high value for the value that we desire to acquire. If we do not value the value that we desire, then how is it possible for us to get that value? Therefore, our value for the value must be supreme. Realizing the worth of the virtue increases desire and drive to acquire that virtue. Next is visualizing benefits. When we realize the benefit that we will accrue upon attaining a value, then only we will develop respect for that value. The value for the virtue and the strong desire to pursue that virtue will motivate us to attain that value. Repeatedly visualizing the benefits of the virtue develops respect and persistence to acquire that virtue. It is similar to how the advertising process works. An advertisement highlights the benefits of an item and keeps on doing that repeatedly until the consumer buys that product. Third is visualizing loss. Realizing the loss that would result to us if we do not have that particular virtue would motivate us to acquire that virtue. Just as realization of the benefit from a value is important, so is the realization of the loss on account of not having that value is also very important. The fourth one is firm resolve. Firm resolve is a command that we give to ourselves which compels our mind to become free from weakness such as laziness and tendency to postpone. Thus, firm resolve will result into mental strength and power for us to move in the right direction so that we can attain the desired results. Hence, we should identify all the good values we want to acquire and then prioritize them. After that, we should take a vow in our mind to acquire those prioritized values. Next comes good association. At times, when we try to acquire a value and we find difficulties in acquiring by ourselves, in those cases, it is beneficial to undertake the same task with company of virtuous people. Due to such an association, you will derive new strength to pursue your goal. Thus, good association is also a very important way to acquire good values. Sixth is penance. The Sanskrit word for this is prayashchit, which means punishment that we give to ourselves after realizing the mistake we have made. Often our mind pursues good behavior out of fear of punishment. In this instance, we are attempting to utilize the feeling of fear in a positive manner. The intention of the self-punishment is neither to destroy or to weaken ourselves. Self-punishment with correct motive will improve our physical and mental strength and not decrease them. If self-punishment is a way to acquire good values, then self-reward is also one of them. Besides giving us joy, it gives us encouragement to continue in pursuit of good values. Instead of saying only the progress that still needs to be made, from time to time we should also see what has been achieved. Being optimistic gives us mental strength and enthusiasm to transform ourselves. The next one is seek support. Here it means seeking support of other virtuous value. It is not possible to attain any given virtue alone by itself. In order to attain that value, assistance of certain other values could be necessary. For example, if we are pursuing the virtue of not hurting others with our speech, we need the assistance of two other values, being careful and limiting our speech. Similarly, if we wish to pursue meditation, we need discipline in both food and sleep. Thus, every virtue is closely connected with certain other values. Good values are interconnected like spaghetti, and hence it is very important that we take a value that is our immediate goal along with other assisting good values and pursue them together to attain success. The ninth one is sattvic qualities. This is a topic by itself, but let us briefly understand what it means. Functions of our mind are propelled by three gunas, namely sattva gun, rajagun and tamagun. In short, mind has threefold nature. When the mind is under the influence of sattva gun, it experiences peace and right knowledge. Under the influence of rajagun, the mind experiences desire and is very active. While under the influence of tamagun, it experiences delusion and laziness. At any given time, the nature of the mind has predominance of one of these three gunas. When sattva gun is dominant and the other two gunas are subordinate, then such a mind is said to be a sattvic mind. Attaining virtuous values become easy when a person has acquired a sattvic mind. Only a mind endowed with sattvic guna will acquire right knowledge about the virtue that will lead him on the right path. Finally, prayer. After having done stuti, which is recognizing virtuous qualities of God, and upasana, which means meditating upon Him, pratna is a prayer to God to seek knowledge and strength. We can undertake such pratna by three means: physical action, emanating from our body; vocal action, emanating through our speech; and finally, mental action emanating from our mind. Every action has to produce a finite result. Prayer also is an action, a karma, and hence it will lead to a corresponding result. When we have faith in God and when we pray with devotion to God, it would definitely yield a good result. When we pray, we receive strength from God. We need strength in proportion to the goal that we seek to achieve. It is possible to easily acquire worldly objects with our monetary and physical strengths. But it is not an easy task to remove the evil tendencies in our mind and to acquire good qualities. When we have selected such a difficult goal, we need great strength to achieve it. We cannot get necessary strength from external sources. It is only from Almighty God that we can get and acquire that great strength. And hence, prayer is one of the most important methods of acquiring values. That brings us to conclusion of our topic, Introduction to Values. Since this was a long topic, it would be nice to summarize the key points before we proceed to discuss two virtues that are also part of the curriculum. Who can acquire good values? In that respect, we said one who has the ability to self-reflect and free will has the capability to transform and hence acquire virtuous values. Animals cannot self-reflect and hence they cannot change their nature. While on the other hand, humans have a powerful and a mature mind with free will and ability to self-reflect. And so, he can set a goal, evaluate the outcome, and improve upon it until desired results are achieved. Humans are endowed with a very powerful instrument called mind. But to capitalize on the power of that mind, they need two things, concentration and good values. Then only the instrument will keep operating at its optimum capacity. Mind is just like any other machine. It requires regular tune-up, meaning practice of meditation is required to focus the mind. And it requires pure oil for frictionless motion, meaning virtuous values that keeps the mind peaceful and tranquil. Next, we learn a valuable equation. To reach our goal, we need knowledge, strong desire, and persistent effort. First, realize the importance of that value, have an intense desire to acquire that value, and thereafter make appropriate effort to acquire that value. There are many virtues that we must acquire. Among all those, patience is required to acquire any virtue. We all have read the story of the tortoise and the hare. Slow and steady wins the race. Initially, our progress may be slow, somewhat like the tortoise, but the progress would continue if we were steady. With this, we can now begin remaining two subtopics. Two good values that everyone should acquire, those are self-responsibility and non-violence. We first look at self-responsibility and then non-violence. The Sanskrit term for self-responsibility is swadharma. We will see for whom self-responsibility is necessary and how is it related to code of ethics. We will also see the benefits and what is the scope of our responsibility. The Sanskrit word swadharma is made up of two words, namely swa and dharma. Swa means self. However, the word dharma has many meanings associated with it. Let us list a few. To uphold or sustain, laws of nature, inherent nature of elements, righteousness, religious teachings, virtuous deeds. The appropriate meaning in context of this topic is duty or responsibility. So the obvious question is, who is supposed to be self-responsible? In other words, for whom is it necessary to be self-responsible? One's first reaction would be, for everyone. Yes, it is for all. Boys and girls, men and women, children and youth, young and adults, parents, teachers, preachers, yogis, rishis, governors, servants, soldiers and businessmen. But not for babies and ones who are mentally challenged. So you may ask, why not babies and mentally challenged? Before we answer that question, let us understand the relation between self-responsibility and code of ethics. We have self-responsibility to follow code of ethics. Code of ethics applies to those who have self-consciousness and free will. Hence, code of ethics applies to all, boys and girls, men and women, children and youth, young and adults, parents, teachers, preachers, yogis, rishis, governors, servants, soldiers, businessmen, but not to babies and mentally challenged. Because code of ethics do not apply to those who cannot distinguish between right and wrong. Since code of ethics does not apply to babies and mentally challenged, for the same reason they do not have self-responsibility. We should realize that we alone are solely responsible for improving ourselves. Our parents, teachers, friends and relatives can help us in raising us, but we only can elevate ourselves. It is only our choice. We can raise ourselves or depress ourselves. And when we feel such self-responsibility, then alone we can say we have mentally grown. Until then, we might grow physically, but we remain to be a child. Now let us look at benefits of being self-responsible. It brings about overall growth. We mature physically, mentally, emotionally, and intellectually. We earn self-respect of others. It gives us encouragement and also motivates us. It helps us to grasp true knowledge that leads us on the righteous path. And last but not least, it gives us satisfaction and fulfillment. Under different situations, we all have different responsibilities. In other words, self-responsibility is not just do your duty. In order to understand the scope of our responsibility, let us take a very simple scenario. I am a high school student and you are my best friend. This coming Sunday is Super Bowl and I plan to watch the game. I have my parents' permission to have you over to watch the game with me, provided we both finish our school homework before watching the game. I am very excited. I am also aware that we both have a major test and a critical homework assignment due on following Monday. We agree to kick off the party as soon as the pre-game show starts. On Sunday, you show up 15 minutes earlier than planned. I am glad and excited that you are not late. Now let us look at responsibility in the actions that are to be done. Despite of being aware of my responsibility that I have to complete all my homework and prepare for the test before the game, if I have not done so before the game starts, then I have failed to be self-responsible for the actions that have to be done. At first, we should develop the sense of self-responsibility in the actions that have to be performed. Responsibility in the actions already done. If I prepare well for the exam but was in middle of my homework when you arrived and did not bother to complete it, and as a result received an incomplete grade on my homework assignment, for that I blame you for coming early than agreed. In that case, I have not been self-responsible in the action left undone. We have to own up responsibility for our actions. Responsibility in actions left undone. As soon as you came on Sunday, you told me you did not complete your homework because you did not understand how to solve few problems. In all the excitement, I ignored what you said. Next day, you receive a poor grade on your homework. In that case, I failed to show self-responsibility for actions left undone. If in a situation where you should have spoken, if you did not speak, for that lapse you are responsible. We have responsibility for our actions that we have done and for the action that we should have done but we failed to do. Now, responsibility in not taking over others' responsibilities. Let us look at case 3 in a different light. When you mention that you had not completed your homework, I get concerned and say, I can help you finish your homework. You hand over the homework assignment to me and start watching the pre-game show. In excitement to join you, I quickly write down the solution on your behalf and joyfully declare, that was easy, all done. In response, I get a thank you from you too. But on the next day, the same problem appears on the test and you fail to solve the problem. In that case, I did not show responsibility in others' responsibility. Just as it is important to take responsibility in our duties, to the same extent, it is important that we do not take responsibility in others' duties. When we think of our responsibility, we should investigate carefully and understand as to where we have responsibility and where we do not. Lastly, responsibility in giving up responsibilities. The test on Monday is an entrance test to qualify for advanced algebra class for the next semester. I am very well aware I barely cleared pre-algebra in the last test and I am not ready for an advanced course, and yet I registered for the test because all my friends including you are enrolling for the advanced course. End result, I miserably failed and was depressed. In this case, I am not showing self-responsibility in giving up my responsibilities. Taking up a responsibility that is greater than your strength and capacity and not giving up the responsibility at the right time are both incorrect. Hope this clarifies a lot of things about where and how one should be responsible. Sense of responsibility is a very important factor for one's progress. Before we conclude this topic, I would like to add, to fully understand scope of our responsibility, one should understand 3 topics, namely the 3 obligations of a human being, 3 rins, 4 stages of life, ashram vyavastha, 4 classification of society, varna vyavastha. All these topics discusses further what are our responsibilities in life. This brings us to the last topic, non-violence. The Sanskrit word for that is ahimsa. Himsa means violence and ahimsa means non-violence. Both these terms, himsa and ahimsa, should be memorized, since they appear in most Vedic scriptures when the topic of non-violence is discussed or referenced. If one ever had a choice of pursuing only one value, then he or she should pursue the value of ahimsa. Why? Because our scriptures say ahimsa parmo dharma, meaning non-violence is the supreme virtue. Ahimsa is prerequisite and final determinant for all the virtues. It is practically impossible to practice any other virtue without ahimsa. Under this topic, we will cover definition of non-violence, what are the means by which we cause himsa, facts of following non-violence, why we need to follow non-violence, in other terms, benefits of ahimsa. What are the causes of acting violently? What are the means by which we can avoid violent behavior? Avoidance of hurt to any living being through action emanating from mind, speech or body is ahimsa or non-violence. Another way of understanding ahimsa is consciously taking a path that causes least harm to any living being, including yourself, is ahimsa. At times we forget ahimsa or non-violence is an action, and it is a good action, meaning punya karma. Hence, opposite of non-violence, himsa is also an action, and it is a bad karma or papa karma. There are three means by which we perform actions, and so there are three ways we can hurt someone. Three means of violence are physically, by body. Example of that would be punching someone. Verbally, by speech. Cursing or telling a lie is an example of verbal himsa. Mentally, by mind. For example, fostering hurtful thoughts in your mind is mental himsa. The picture says it all. Every sinful act incurs an unpleasurable result. When we physically harm someone, it yields the worst unpleasurable results, while sin committed by speech are worse than the sin committed by mind. Here are few essential things you should know about ahimsa. Causing hurt to yourself is also violence. As difficult as it seems, ahimsa is a virtue that can be pursued. Punishment with intent to correct someone is not considered violence. Ahimsa alleviates us only when it is followed for welfare of everyone. Only observance of non-violence leads to lasting peace. To follow ahimsa, you require to follow other supporting virtues as well. Knowing the benefits of a value motivates us to acquire that value. So let us see what are the benefits of following non-violence. Non-violence will protect you and others. It brings welfare to everyone. It fulfills true meaning of life. I am born to do good. Helps us cultivate intellect that can distinguish between good and bad, meaning Vivek Buddhi. Makes us physically and mentally strong. Leads to purity of mind, which is a prerequisite for moksha, freedom from all suffering. In order to follow ahimsa, we need to first understand what causes us to act in a violent manner. Introspection helps us to identify the cause of violence, while awareness helps us to avoid making that same mistake again. By being aware of the cause, we can cease to act in that manner and thereby stop hurting others. The result would be that we will not feel sorrow and our mind will function as a good companion to us. Now we will discuss the cause and means of violence. The first one and leader of all is jealousy. Jealousy arises in our mind when we do not accept someone else's progress, praise, or even when the other person righteously does better than you. Jealousy is very dangerous because it manifests in your mind rather than expression through your body or speech. When the problem is not addressed or controlled, it starts to foster other behaviors of habits that cause hurt to you and others. Since the primary reason for jealousy is discontentment, the super pill to fix it is contentment. Be competitive, but do not compare after the game is over. Look at the positive side. If someone else is really better than you, consider it an opportunity to learn or seek guidance from him or her. Always keep in mind, ultimate goal of your life is to make progress and be happy, and fostering jealousy only rubs against you to bring you more pain and sorrow. Repeated feeling of jealousy leads to hatred towards that person, so the next cause of violence is hatred. Let us discuss hatred. Besides jealousy, when someone displeases us by their actions or don't follow our instructions or hurt us, then we begin to dislike that person and ultimately develop hatred for them in our mind. When we hate someone, we tend to punish them more than they deserve or we treat them unfairly. Such actions lead to hurt others. Hatred causes us to become restless and we begin to lose our peace of mind. The only way to give up hate is by cultivating love, but that has to be done with proper understanding. The technique used for that is to learn how to separate the person from his actions. For example, keep reminding yourself, I do not like the action he did, but as a person he is okay. Just like in a movie, we hate the villain's character, but not the actor in reality. In the same way, think the one who hurts you is not a bad person, but you do not approve his misbehavior or his action, and add a prayer for him. May Ishwar give him the strength to overcome his weakness and the intellect to do the right things. As per Vedas, having compassion towards all living beings is the highest dharma. The next cause of violence is anger. We all have been angry on someone and very well know the effects of being angry is never pleasing. We cause hurt to other person by being angry, and when the anger subsides, we feel sorry that we reacted in such a manner. Among all the ways we can hurt others, anger is the worst one because it comes with a triple blow, mind, body and speech. In the process, we don't realize we not only hurt the other person but also cause more damage to ourselves. So how do we control our anger? When you are angry and if someone asks you to calm down, in that very moment, does that even work or does it make the situation worse? The only effective way to control anger is to cultivate a calm mind and a non-reactive behavior. At times, when you are angry, someone must have told you to take a deep breath or walk away from the situation. That essentially is the same thing. This happens because when we are angry, our discriminating faculty is compromised, meaning we lose control of choosing between what is right and wrong. And that is a horrible thing. Hence, anger should be avoided at any cost. If keeping the mind calm is the solution, then how do we cultivate calmness of mind? There is no better way than practicing meditation, which gives us ability to have tremendous control over our mind and thus helps us in acting but not reacting. Next we will discuss revenge. Revenge seeds from sorrow. Sorrow is something that we experience when someone hurts us or does injustice to us. When we are not able to shake off the seeds of sorrow, then our mind starts plotting ways to harm the person who caused us harm. In the process, we also get external help from others that foster the growth of this plot. Our ultimate goal is to take an action that causes maximum sorrow to one who caused us harm. This tit-for-tat show does not end until one of us breaks the cycle by letting it go, or in other words, truly forgive the other. To overcome revengeful attitude, develop a habit to forgive. Understand, forgiving is not a sign of weakness. Instead, it takes a lot of courage and strength to forgive someone. Not only that, forgiveness removes feeling of hatred, enmity, and anger within our mind. Also, forgiving does not mean you accept and approve the injustice that was done to you. You forgive someone because it is the right thing to do and it avoids further harm not only to you but also the other person. Such an action of forgiveness indicates maturity of your mind and intellect. Besides the four major ways of causing himsa, there are several other subtle actions done by mind, body and speech that hurt others. To practice ahimsa in its entirety, we should know how to avoid those as well. So let us look at lack of attention. At times, we don't pay attention to what someone is saying when we are not interested or we don't care or have a feeling of superiority. Regardless of the reason, our behavior results into hurting the other person and hence we are responsible in all such cases. Sometimes we interrupt or cut off someone because of our talkative nature. Not giving due attention and respect is also himsa. So, we need to be respectful, learn good communication skills and moral behavior. Having control over our speech is also a good way to avoid hurt to others. The last one we want to talk about is uncivility. We also hurt someone when we do not follow proper social conduct. Our dress code, verbal language, body language, writing, speech and habits should not make anyone uncomfortable or offendable. We should also understand and observe the rules, regulations and governing laws based on time, place and situation. Not doing so would not only hurt others but will also hurt and punish us. Everyone should be treated with dignity, respect and equanimity. In today's time with rapidly growing digital communications, one should observe civility when using social media on their digital devices. This brings us to the end of our session. Hope this was informative and will help you to cultivate good values. Now get ready for a short quiz. Here is a short quiz. It will help validate your understanding. What distinguishes animals from human beings? Consciousness, strength, ability to self-reflect, five senses, none of the above. Choose the right answer. Both animals and humans are conscious and have five senses. Both possess strength. However, animals cannot self-reflect. Hence, the correct answer is ability to self-reflect. Let us try another one. Which of the following is required to acquire a value? Knowledge, effort, desire, none of the above. Choose all possible answers. This question refers to fundamental means of acquiring values. In order to acquire value, we first need knowledge of the value that we are trying to acquire. Second, we need the desire to acquire that propels our mind to act. And lastly, we need to make sure we put appropriate effort to acquire the value. Hence, knowledge, desire, and effort, all three are required. Question 3. This is a true or false question. At times, giving up responsibility is also being responsible. This statement is true. Taking up responsibility that is greater than our strength and capacity, or not giving up responsibility at the right time, is not being responsible. Thus, to give up responsibility under those circumstances is good sense of responsibility. Final question. Which of the following statements are true? Nonviolence cannot be practiced in all situations. Hurt caused with intent to correct someone is not violence. Ahimsa is not an action. Causing hurt to yourself is also violence. Choose all possible answers. Ahimsa is an action, hence that statement is not true. Nonviolence has to be practiced under all conditions, so that statement is false as well. Hurt caused with intent to correct is doing a good deed, and hence it is not violence, so that statement is true. Causing hurt to ourselves or others both is considered himsa, hence that statement is true. Thank you for taking the quiz. If you had any difficulties, please go back, refer to the presentation or your VDAT 2 material. It will answer most of the questions. If you still have difficulties, please reach out to us. Thank you and congratulations. Many thanks to all of you. For additional information, please read the VDAT 2 material. Reach out to us if you have any questions or doubts. We are always available to help you. I am grateful to Arya Pratinidhi Sabha of America for giving me this opportunity to serve.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.